Today we're going to be ranking every single evolution in Clash Royale. This is way harder than you think, but luckily you have the best player in the history of Clash Royale here to do it for you. As always, everything that I say is completely objective, so before you start typing, and I know you are, shut the f up. There will be 6 tiers, F to S, and we'll be ranking from worst to best. Starting off at number 16, the only card in the F tier is the Evolved Ice Spirit. The Evolved Ice Spirit is by far and away the worst evolution in Clash Royale right now. Every single deck that the Ice Spirit is used in, you would use other evolutions. In Hog Rider, you're using Skeletons, Firecracker, or even Evolved Valkyrie. In Log Bait, you're going to use Evolved Valkyrie, Evolved Tesla, or even Evolved Skeleton. Sure, the freeze can become handy sometimes, especially on defense, but there's no reason to use it over other better evolutions. Moving on to the D tier, at number 15 is the Evolved Royal Giant. The Evolved Royal Giant has seen a slight uptick in usage lately. I made multiple videos about how evolved win conditions are probably going to be worse. Obviously, we know about the Evolved Battle Ram now, but that's later on in this video, but the other evolved win conditions are drastically worse than the Evolved Support Troops. The Evolved Royal Giant is victim to this. There's no reason to evolve it when you can evolve support troops that are going to help you much more in the game. Continuing in the D tier, at number 14 is the Evolved Mortar. The Evolved Mortar is just bad. Everything that counters the regular mortar counters the evolved mortar. It really doesn't change too many matchups, and it's not like there's a luck factor involved occasionally, like with the evolved skeletons where they can automatically win you a game. The evolved mortar really doesn't do much. It's just a better version of the mortar. Evolved mortar decks are very, very rare, and especially since hog mortar isn't very common anymore. There's just so many more evolutions that you should be able to use, or that you should be using, than the mortar. Ever since the introduction of the evolved Tesla, Expo has gotten more and more usage and has really taken a big chunk of usage away from the evolved mortar in the meta. This is terrible for the evolved mortar, and even though it didn't have a ton of usage before, it has even less now. Starting off the C tier at number 13 is the Evolved Valkyrie. The Evolved Valkyrie is much better than I originally thought it was, but it's still not a great evolution overall. There are some decks that it can be used in. It's used a ton right now in Lava Hound, and it can be used in Log Bait, Hog XE NATO, a lot of those kind of decks. But overall, it's not an insanely great card. You can't really just throw the Evolved Valkyrie into a random deck like you can the Evolved Archers, the Evolved Skeletons, the Evolved Bats. It also runs into the issue of being much worse than the Evolved Knight. The Valkyrie and the Knight fill the same role in most decks. You're thinking Graveyard, Log Baits, any of those kind of decks, the Evolved Knight is just drastically better than the Evolved Valkyrie. It has a problem of being outclassed, and really it just can't fit into a whole ton of decks. At number 12 is the Evolved Royal Recruits. The Evolved Royal Recruits used to be the best card in the game. It has gotten nerfed about 77,000 times by now, which is why they're this far down. And with the introduction of the new Tower Troop, these things get absolutely melted. You have to use them as a secondary win condition, as a support troop, as a defensive card, because they just get completely melted nowadays. Ever since Supercell took away the Evolved Royal Recruits damage boots, along with the introduction of the Dagger Duchess, the Royal Recruits are not in a very good spot right now. At number 11 is the Evolved Barbarians. The Evolved Barbarians are in a really weird spot. They have a really high use rate, but I really don't think that they're much higher than this on this list. The other evolutions are just better than the Evolved Barbs in my opinion. They get countered by so many spells, they get countered by a ton of troops, but then again, they are a very good defensive card. I think they are slightly better than the Evolved Royal Recruits, but I think they're closer to the Recruits than they are to the next tier. They're used quite commonly in Lava Hound, they're used in a lot of bridge spam, they're used in Three Musketeers, stuff like that. They're just overall a good defensive card, but that's all there is to them. The high use rate of the Evolved Barbs might be more indicative of the decks that are played right now and less about the card itself. Starting off the B tier at number 10, the Evolved Firecracker. All you mid-ladder menaces are going to absolutely hate me for this, but the Evolved Firecracker is not near as good as you guys think. Yes, this thing is annoying as she just jumps back 20,000 feet every time she shoots. She does a crap ton of damage, but then again, she dies every single time you use her. She activates the King Tower every single time you put her down. But then again, the one time that you get this thing to shoot on the tower's basically done. She is a very hard-hitting troop, but you really can't rely on her a lot. Most good players have learned how to defend her already, and it's really hard to get that cheesy, cheap damage like you used to be able to get. Hog Earthquake is not near as popular as it was a couple of seasons ago, and that's really the only deck that the Firecracker can be used in consistently. With the Evolved Battle Ram coming into the game, all you mid-ladder menaces are probably going to switch back to P.E.K.K.A. Bridge Spam instead of spamming Hog Riders at the bridge. We'll have to see what happens, but I think the Firecracker is in this good, slightly below average evolution tier. At number 9 is the Evolved Archers. The Evolved Archers are overall just a very, very good evolution. There's nothing too crazy about them. They're not insanely overpowered, but they're definitely not weak either. They're just a card that you can plug into almost any deck and they're going to be somewhat successful. The fact that you can split them and they can do a ton of damage on both sides. There's nothing really special to them at all. They're just very, very consistent. They're very good, and you can rely on them at all times. And number 8 is the Evolved Wall Breakers. After multiple seasons of these goddamn things being out, I still have not learned how to defend these things correctly. With this being said, everyone else seems to have already figured this out. The Evolved Wall Breakers are still a really good card, and they're really, really hard to defend, even when you have good spells against them. With this being said, with the introduction of the Evolved Battle Ram, the spamming the Evolved Wall Breakers at the bridge, I see becoming slightly less common. People are going to start using the Evolved Battle Ram over the Evolved Wall Breakers in many of those bridge spam decks that it's used in right now. This is going to make their use rates even lower, even though they are already plummeting from the top of the game like they were a couple of seasons ago. At number 7 is the Evolved Skeletons. Yes, the Evolved Skeletons used to be a top 3 card in the game. They're no longer a top 3 card in the game, but they are still insanely good. Have you ever seen a 1 elixir card that can just completely win you the game for no apparent reason? They are the most ridiculous card in the game sometimes. Yes, they can no longer hard counter a goddamn Electro Giant by themselves. It should have never been able to do that in the first place, so I don't even understand why half of you guys are complaining about that nerf. There's no reason why a 1 elixir cycle card was able to kill an entire push by itself and then go take out your crown tower, and then your king tower is gone too. Like, what the hell was wrong with that? That was such a stupid thing in the first place. The Evolved Skeletons are still a very good card. They're no longer a top 3 card in the game. I don't even think that's arguable anymore, but they're still a very, very good card. Starting off the A tier, number 6, the Evolved Tesla. The Evolved Tesla is a very, 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 very good card. It absolutely smokes everything. It smokes all the spam. It smokes basically everything. Like, it smokes tanks. Everything's just gone. The Tesla was already a good card before the evolution came out. So it basically just made the best or the second best building in the game just drastically stronger. The Evolved Tesla has brought multiple decks back into the game. Like, have you ever seen 3.0 Expo before this season? Well, it's become drastically stronger with the Evolved Tesla. The Tesla evolution now allows it to take out swarms, which is basically the only thing that can completely blow up a Tesla. There's not really much else to say. The stun of the Tesla just completely blasts everything, and it's just a really good overall card. At number 5 is the Evolved Bats. For some reason, many of you guys think the Evolved Bats are bad. That's just wild. The Evolved Bats are so versatile, and they're so freaking good. It's a cycle card that's in the air that can survive basically every goddamn card in the game. If you don't have any splash damage or a troop that even shoots air, you're done for. Like, the game is over. They've killed your whole push. They took your whole tower down. Like, they are ridiculous. When you spam Evolved Bats at the bridge with any other support troop or any other tank, they're going to take a tower by themselves. You can't even zap them once they start to hit stuff. They're just a very good card, and because they're a cycle card, they're so easy to get to that even if they don't work the first time, they're going to work the second or the third time. At number 4 is the Evolved Knight. The Evolved Knight is still a great card, probably still a top 5 card in the game. It's just slightly worse than some of these very, very overpowered evolutions. The Evolved Knight is going to always be a good card if it's built the way it is right now. It's just going to be a mega tank that's basically an ice golem that can do a crap ton of damage once it starts hitting something. It is great in Hog. It's great in Bait. It's great in just about every single deck in the game. You can plug the Evolved Knight in almost every single deck, and it's going to have success. It is like the epitome of a great evolution. And starting off the S tier at number 3 with the Evolved Zap. The Evolved Zap is the first spell evolution in Clash Royale, and it's very clear that Supercell is going to make these spell evolutions some of the most broken cards in the game. The Zap itself is a very bad card, one of the worst spells in the game, but the Evolved Zap is one of the best cards in the game. We're talking 30+% use rate because this thing is so goddamn broken. It's basically arrows, poison, all the damage spells combined with a stun effect, and it just kills everything. Like, it's gonna kill your archers, it's gonna kill your firecracker, it's gonna kill your minions. Like, those things are done. It can basically hard counter a graveyard by itself. No one talks about it because it's the only evolved spell, and we have nothing to compare it to, and the Zap itself wasn't very good beforehand. If it was basically any other card with an evolution like this, we'd be talking about how it's absolutely broken and needs a nerf immediately. But it seems like just because it's a Zap, no one has even brought this up. The Zap is absolutely broken. At number 2 is the Evolved Bomber. This thing. This thing's so goddamn annoying. This thing just, oh, let's spam this at the bridge. It's gonna take your tower. All you have to do, throw a goblin drill in front of the tower. Oops, Evo Bomber took the tower. If you don't have arrows in your deck, you're just gonna automatically lose. The Evolved Bomber just kills everything. Like, it's so annoying. Like, I'm stressing the out, guys. It's so annoying. And at number 1, the most broken evolution in Clash Royale is the Evolved Battle Ram. Guys, you saw how the Evolved Bomber has destroyed this game. Have you ever seen this little pencil f***er hitting your tower 20,000 times? I'm so tired of it. The thing just goes, oh my god, it's just destroying me. Every time it goes down the lane, it's just like taking my entire tower, and I'm done with it. I'm f***ing done with it, guys. Guys, just please like this video and subscribe to the channel.